I, Elena Whitaker, was 68 years old when my husband Richard died. But in our garden, on a perfect October afternoon, kneeling beside the rose bed we planted 30 years ago, he had been pruning the climbers, softly humming an old Sinatra tune, when his heart simply stopped. I found him an hour later, secateurs still in his hand, face turned toward the last light of the day. We had no children together. Richard had 2 children from his first marriage, Claire, 45, a corporate attorney in Seattle, and Marcus, 42, a tech entrepreneur in San Francisco. They flew in for the funeral, standing on either side of me, offering stiff hugs that smelled of airport coffee and expensive perfume. I noticed small things in those first days of grief. How Claire kept glancing at the house as though measuring it. How? Marcus asked, almost too casually. About Richard's investment portfolio. How neither of them cried not once. A week after the funeral, they asked to meet me in Richard's study. The room still smelled of his cedar, cologne, and the leather-bound books he loved. I sat in the wing-back chair that had always been mine. Claire and Marcus took the sofa opposite. Like interviewers. Elena, Claire said, we've been going through Dad's papers with his estate attorney. The will is straightforward. The house, the lake cabin in Hood River, the brokerage accounts, the retirement funds, everything passes to Marcus and me. Dad felt it should stay in the bloodline. But we're not monsters, Marcus added. There's a life insurance policy, $150,000 payable directly to you, and we'll give you 4 months to find a new place. That's more than generous. I stared at the documents. The signature at the bottom looked like Richard's, but something about the date 2 years earlier felt wrong. I remembered that winter vividly. Richard had been recovering from pneumonia. Weak, signing papers only with my hand steadying his. I asked quietly, did your father discuss this with you? He wanted to spare you the burden of managing everything alone, Claire said. You've never been financial. The word hung in the air like an insult. I had given up my teaching career at 50 to care for Richard's aging parents, to manage their homes, to host his clients, to keep every part of his life running smoothly, so he could build the wealth they now claimed as theirs alone. I felt the room tilt. 30 years of shared mornings, shared silences, shared dreams reduced to 4 months, and $150,000. I see, I said. They looked relieved. Marcus even reached across to pat my knee, an awkward, theatrical gesture. We knew you'd understand. That night I could not sleep. I walked the house barefoot, touching the banister Richard had refinished himself, the kitchen island where we had cooked together every Sunday, the garden door where he had kissed me goodbye each morning. Every corner held a memory, and every memory now felt stolen. For months after Richard's death, the exact date they had given me to leave, Claire and Marcus arrived with their real estate agent, contracts in hand, ready to take possession. Instead, they found me in the living room, sunlight streaming through the windows onto the Persian rug they had already mentally sold. Beside me sat Daniel Reyes, a calm man in his 50s with kind eyes and an iron spine. Thank you for coming. We have some paperwork to review, I said. Paperwork? The closing is next week, Claire said. I slid the authenticated copy of the true will across the table. Then the trust documents. Then the mortgage statements. This can't be legal, Claire whispered. It is, Reyes said quietly. Your father executed this will 6 months before his death, in full possession of his faculties. Medical records confirm it. The prior will, the one you presented, was superseded. Dad would never. Marcus began. Your father knew exactly what you were doing. He documented every forged withdrawal, every unauthorized transfer. I have it all, Elena, please. We can work this out. We're family, Claire begged. I looked at her for a long moment. I remembered the girl. Claire had been at 16 angry at the world for losing her mother, lashing out at the new woman in her father's life. I had tried so hard to love her, to be patient, to earn a place. I had attended every graduation, every wedding, every milestone, always on the edges of photographs, smiling politely. Marcus tried next. We'll split everything. 50-50. You keep the house. We take the investments. No, I said. The single word hung in the air. I am choosing to honor your father's wishes in the way he intended. I am gifting you the house and the lake cabin, exactly as you believed you were inheriting them, with all associated liabilities. You will have 30 days to refinance or assume the loans. I can, and I am. The silence stretched until it felt like glass about to shatter. Claire whispered, "You're destroying us." I leaned forward, my voice soft but unflinching. You destroyed me first. You stood in this room and told me 30 years of my life were worth 4 months and $150,000. You celebrated before the earth had even settled on his grave. I paused, letting the words sink in. I am simply returning the gift. They signed the papers that day. They had no choice. Within a year, the house was foreclosed. The developer walked away when the debt became public. Claire lost her partnership at the law firm when the forgery investigation surfaced. Marcus's startup collapsed under creditor lawsuits. Their marriages unraveled under the strain. They blamed each other and never spoke again. I sold the few unencumbered assets, added them to the trust, and bought a small seaside cottage in Manzanita, Oregon, close enough to visit Richard's grave, far enough to begin again. I planted a new rose garden, hybrid teas, floribundas, climbers just like the one I had tended for him. Every spring they bloomed in reckless color. I took watercolor classes. I adopted an old golden retriever named Daisy who had been surrendered when her owner died. I volunteered at the local library, reading to children on Saturday mornings. Sometimes, in the quiet evenings, I would sit on my porch watching the ocean and feel Richard beside me, not as a ghost, but as a presence. I no longer felt betrayed by his secrecy. I understood now. He had wanted to spare me the ugliness while he lived. He had trusted me to be strong enough when the time came. One afternoon, a young woman named Sarah, 30, hesitant, eyes shadowed by recent grief, knocked on my gate. She was the daughter of Daniel Reyes, my father. Thought you might be willing to speak with some women I counsel, she said. Women who've lost everything to family greed after a death, financial abuse, emotional manipulation. He said you would understand. I do understand, I said. 2 years later, I established the Richard and Elena Whitaker Foundation, offering pro bono legal aid and financial planning to widows and widowers facing inheritance theft by family members. The first grant went to a woman whose stepchildren had tried exactly what Claire and Marcus had done. I never heard from Claire or Marcus again. I did not seek them out. I did not need to. Some nights, when the wind carried the scent of roses through my open window, I would whisper into the dark, "I kept the garden, Richard, just like you asked." And somewhere, I knew, he was smiling.